I've never read the book and I've never seen any of the previous adaptations, but now that we've got that out of the way, let's discuss The Lord of Flies. Lord of the Flies tells us the story of a group of boys that crash land on a remote island, and it shows us their attempts to survive in the middle of this very harsh reality. The way the story is told is each episode kind of focuses on a particular character's point of view, and you get a little bit more backstory about that particular character. Right off the bat, I have to give mad props to Winston Sawyers, Lox Pratt, David McKenna, Ike Talbut, and Cornelius Brandreth. All the kids in this series really did a phenomenal job, but it's these 5 characters that stood out the most. David McKenna brings such a raw energy to his portrayal of Piggy. This is a kid that I think a lot of people can probably connect to because he is a kid that, because of his weight, has been picked on a fair amount in his life, and yet he doesn't really let that hold him back too much. For someone that's dealing with bullying on a constant basis, he really holds his head up high, higher than a lot of people would in the same situation, including myself. He's one of the smartest, if not the smartest, of the boys, and he represents light in dark times. He represents empathy and the power of being a good person despite the odds. He's compassionate, he cares about others, he has all it takes to really be a leader, and yet he is humble enough to not want to be the leader. Now on the other side of the spectrum, you get Jack, played by Lox Pratt, and this kid is very much presented as a bully. He is a kid who seems like he wants to lead everybody, he wants to be in control, he is demonstrating all this strength and bravery more than he actually really has, because you do find out throughout the series that this kid is putting on a front. He is by no means the strong person that he's pretending to be. By the way, this kid dominates every single scene that he's in, so if you had any concerns about him taking over as the new Draco Malfoy, then watch this series because he will sway your opinion. He is just a really good villain. You find out in one of the episodes that he has a really close relationship with Simon, played by Ike Talbut, but because Simon is not among the popular kids at the school, whenever the other kids are around, Jacob treats Simon like shit. Now, this is something that I can actually really connect to because growing up, me and my cousin were super tight, but there was this one family friend that we had, and her son, whenever that son was around my cousin treated me kind of different. He acted like a dick. I'm assuming that the reason is very similar to the reason that Jack acts like this. It's because you're trying to look tough in front of other people because you don't feel tough in your real life, and you are trying to just gain that control and gain that confidence, manifest it, force it to be real. When it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Simon understands. He sees the real Jack. He sees the Jack that Jack does not want anyone else to see. I thought Simon was a really excellent character. Ike really knocked that role out of the park. For such a young cast, all of these actors, they really did deliver top-notch performances. Winston Sawyers plays Ralph, and damn, this kid is excellent. He kind of is the bridge between Piggy and Jack because he's got a little bit of the bullying quality. He's willing to put on that front for other people, but at the same time, he understands empathy in a way that Jack just doesn't seem to, which is why he ends up becoming the leader of the survivors, and it does make sense because he is brave, he's got the bravery down pat, and he's got the empathy as well. Throughout the course of this miniseries, we see the survivors go from being a unified group to splitting apart and really diving into some crazy shit. Because the more the group fractures, the more their psyches start to split, and it really leads to some creepy shit, which I think is a very strong social commentary on humanity in general, because yeah, the darkness that they go down in this series, it is not unlike the real world. Even despite having a common goal, okay, getting rescued, they still manage to fight. They still manage to introduce violence and feuds and competitiveness and narcissism and all the bad stuff. And that's the same thing that ends up happening in our real world, because at the end of the day, you could say that we are very much doing the same thing that the boys in this series are doing. Okay, we're trying to survive, and yet we are always at each other's throats, acting like we are not all on the same page at all. We always manage to introduce violence. We always go there, and that's exactly what happens in this series. The longer they're on this island, the more their psyches start to break, the more dark things turn. It's really quite impressive how well this series managed to turn out, considering that they were working with a cast of very young kids, some of them like toddlers essentially, and yet they were able to at least coax some really solid performances out of most of them. I can only imagine the stressful days and nights of drinking that creator Jack Thorne went through while making this series, because I've worked with kids. I used to be a school bus driver, and I can say firsthand that children are not the most reasonable of people. But I'd call this series a home run. Now, I will say, when when the series first started, I was noticing that fisheye camera effect. And at first I was like, oh, I don't think I like this. I'm thinking of turning this shit off. But I ended up sticking with it because I thought, all right, that's an unreasonable thing. Okay, this is the creator's choice, the cinematographer's choice to shoot that way. And who am I to disagree with it? So I decided to keep pushing forward. And I'm really glad I did. Now, another quirk I can say about this series is the music. The music in this series is kind of strange because it is choir style music, oftentimes feeling very upbeat while being set to scenes that don't really match it. It seems like the music is saying happy, the tone of the series is saying something bad is about to happen, and I kind of found that to be a very unique contrast that pulls you in and makes you want to continue watching. Now, in terms of how this compares to the book, I have no fucking idea because I've never read that book, and I also never saw any previous adaptations. I don't know how I didn't have to read this book in school, but I didn't. But as this series, as it is for me, I am judging it as a series standalone. I am calling this an 8.5 out of 10. I was pulled in enough to binge it, but I have to say I don't think this was the most remarkable thing that I've ever watched. It's weird. There's really a lot that works well about this series. I technically did enjoy it. I continued watching it every episode, and yet by the time it did conclude, I couldn't feel the words love. I felt the words, I like this. I think this is a really well-made series, and I really, really like it. But is this essential viewing? I don't think so. I don't think it is. I know there's gonna be some book people that feel a certain way. That just happens every single time. It's inevitable. So if you are one of those people, go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to hear more things from me, you know what to do, guys. Subscribe. Later.